first order of business on our second day of Gamescom. We missed it on day one. We queued up at Microsoft beginning of day two to see Stalker 2, which is a hugely anticipated game. We had to see it. And so did many other people, because as soon as the show opened, people were literally...
Stampede.
It was a stampede for the Stalker.
I felt
booth.
like it was setting us up for what Stalker's about, this harsh reality and like survival, because like it's literally like being at like the starting line of a race where like as soon as the bell goes off, everybody starts walking, but then they start walking a little faster, and then they're jogging, and then it's a full run, and we all did it, and everybody's going right for the Stalker 2 line, and thankfully we got place number like 12 and 13 or something.
Yeah, but let's remember we were placed number 1.
Originally, when it started.
Yes. We didn't run fast enough.
No.
We didn't clamour enough.
No, I was like, wait a minute, they're going for it, and then I started to speed up.
But we did get in on the first session, and it's interesting because the game has been announced to ship Q1 2024, and I think based on what we saw, there's a lot of promise there, but it's still a lot of work to do. So I'm curious how they're going to pull this off.
Yeah, so we walked in, they were running on PCs, so we did not see any sort of Xbox version. It was a PC build running with VSync off on these 4K screens. It looked good at first glance, and there was a lot of good to say. So it's a mixed bag on that. And this is a tricky one to talk about because these guys, more than like any other developer we know of, they've been through some tough stuff, right? Mm-hmm. They are Ukrainian developers, so they're dealing with that. They're doing their best here, but I still think they've crafted something that it looks genuinely beautiful, like the landscapes and everything. It's Unreal Engine 5. They seem to be using Lumen GI and reflections. Mm-hmm. They seem to be using Nanite as well. Shadows, slightly less clear if it's VSM or not, based on some of the issues I saw. Yeah. So we'll need to double check on that, but that meant that no LOD pop-in, basically. So you have all these structures in the distance. They're perfectly stable no matter the distance you are from them, but they don't seem to be using the nanite for foliage.
Yeah.
Which was not active, so foliage LOD drawing was pretty noticeable. There was also this weird like heat haze effect on all trees. It wasn't really a heat haze, but it made the bark look like it was like warbling in a weird way that I couldn't understand what it was. You saw it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it's really tough. I mean, we probably shouldn't be critiquing a game that's clearly unfinished. And Phil Spencer was mentioning that they were working on builds
morning of.
Yeah, literally, same day. So
yeah, that performance and stuff. Nothing to say on that because very unfinished.
Early days, but
I will comment though on the acting and character performances, and I'm very curious what's going on there because when you talk to characters in this build, they basically don't have facial expressions. You just have like this very blank face with eyes staring off somewhere else, and very unusual voice acting, I would say.
Yeah.
And it just, all the characters you interacted with, it just felt like placeholder stuff. Maybe it was, actually.
Probably could be.
But it was really odd to see.
Something I noticed is that typically games these days have a certain aesthetic that are a factor of TAA being built into the engine. This looked like super crisp.
It was super pristine. And yeah, we were playing on 4K monitors, but they're small. I think they're like
that might have...
fairly small monitors, although I can't tell what's small anymore since I use such a large screen on my PC. They may have been like 27, which people would consider
big
enough, but it felt tiny, but it was super sharp. I liked that side of it. I also was impressed with what I saw of the AI. So there was a scene where an enemy just sort of was like roaming in the woods there, and I fired off a shot at him, and he actually, it almost appeared like he got startled, and then very quickly scrambled to cover. And then he starts peeking around this like building trying to shoot at me. And then I go after him, and he actually ran further away. And it was this interesting chase where he wasn't just like a roving bot. And it felt kind of convincing. And I thought there was some potential there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like the Call of Duty interaction where they kind of beeline for you, just shooting at you is what you're saying, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So that part was good. The gun handling, it still needs work, but it has potential. It feels a lot better than Stalker 1, I would say. Mm-hmm, absolutely. And, again, Lumen GI being used, It was actually very reminiscent of what 4A Games did with Metro Exodus
Yeah.
Enhanced Edition, where, you know, so we're seeing like Lumen versus their bespoke solution. And in that sense, I would say at this point, based on that demo, Metro Exodus does look visually better, but I do think Stalker still has a nice look to it and a lot of potential there, and the atmosphere is really excellent, I would say.
Yeah. I sadly couldn't be there. I was meeting with someone else from Neon Giant Games, which I can talk about briefly as well later. But I would have loved to have seen Stalker 2. But yeah, it does sound like it was a little bit rough around the edges for all the expected reasons you could imagine given the circumstances.
Yeah.
But the heart and the design was there, right?
It seems like there's a really good game in the making there. And we'll obviously keep an eye on that.
Absolutely. But tell us about Neon Giant Games, because we haven't got it on the docket.
Yeah, so this one is basically, they worked on The Ascent, which John covered back in the day, covering the Xbox.
The Ascent.
Yeah.
Ascent.
Oliver did the last gen version.
Last gen version, yeah. And that was a game that is made by it's like a 20-person team, and that was really impressive from a technical, visual, artistic angle. And they don't have like graphics. They didn't have, back then, they didn't have a graphics programmer. So it was all tech art tricks and getting the most out of Unreal Engine 4 at that point in time. And I can only say so much about their new title, but basically Untitled at the moment. I did see it. It looked really, really good. To give a short rundown of it, it's like UE5 pushing the visuals as far as you can imagine. And then cyberpunk-esque, small area. I wouldn't say small, it's large area that it takes place in, but it reminded me of Deus Ex, to say the least, in terms of what I was being described. So that appeals to me greatly as a person who likes Deus Ex and all those type of games.
So it's an immersive sim?
They're reluctant to maybe use that word, but Deus Ex was definitely what it brought up in my mind based on the description of the gameplay and the interactivity level and the granular detail of all the AI and all that things going on. So
sounds cool.
Awesome looking game. I have no idea when it's coming out. I have no idea when it's going to be shown, but I asked like, can I say something about it? Like, yeah, of course. So they're going to be more open, I think, than other developers where, you know, AAA sometimes like, don't say anything about the game. You'll be NDA'd into oblivion, you know, and here it's more like,
I went to one of those.
Yeah, you went to one of those.
Yes. Yeah, it sounds really intriguing.
Yeah,
Indeed.
I'm excited, and we'll see it when they show it.